Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action. I am here today. Good morning. I am here today talking all things WWE. So what we are going to be doing today is we are going to be discussing all things. Well, firstly, we're going to talk a little bit about SmackDown. Obviously, confirm that Logan Paul will be at WrestleMania as the guest of Sami Zayn. That's right, guys. Famous YouTuber Logan Paul in Sami Zayn's corner, it seems, at WrestleMania. Now, also what we are going to do is we are going to speak a little bit more about NXT. Obviously, we now know the identities of the 6 men who will compete for an NXT North American Championship opportunity on night 2 of Stand and Deliver. But first, it's time for me to lay the SmackDan on all things Monday Night Raw. So, this week on Monday Night Raw, we said farewell to the Thunderdome as we know it. The Thunderdome at Tropicana Field. This was the last live Raw taping at Tropicana Field. So, next week's Raw, obviously the go-home edition for WrestleMania, was actually strangely taped before this episode actually went live. And it kicked off with quite a massive angle, really. And that was the dismansion of the Hurt Business. So we saw MVP and Bobby Lashley seemingly kick Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin out of the Hurt Business. But what does it mean for WrestleMania? So we know that the Hurt Business are banned from ringside. But are they? The Hurt Business are banned from ringside. But are Cedric and Shelton banned from ringside? Or is it Cedric and Shelton that are banned from ringside, but not necessarily the Hurt Business? Who knows? But it's going to be, I suppose, one of those things where only time will tell. We will see in around a week and a couple of days now, I guess, at WrestleMania, what is going to go on there. So we now know as well officially that there is going to be a United States Championship match. In that match, Riddle will defend the United States Championship against Sheamus. Now, if you didn't see Raw, you would have seen if you did see Raw even, you would have seen that there was a hilarious backstage segment with Riddle and Asuka. So Riddle's riding through on his scooter. He says something to Asuka and then totally forgets his lines and he just blurts it out. It's like, yeah, I forgot my lines and just scooted off. We've since found out apparently that segment was actually pre-taped, and the reason they didn't ask him to go back and redo it was because Vince found it absolutely hilarious and just essentially went with it. It was like, yeah, you may as well just go ahead and just carry on with what you're doing, sort of thing. And I think that's going to be a very, very good match at WrestleMania. Obviously, we'll be talking about that in depth a little bit later on. I'll be sitting down, obviously, with Lucas, Rob, and Scott to discuss our predictions for WrestleMania. And so tune in for that, and we'll see, obviously, what happens in the race for the championship trophy. Also, it was announced on Monday Night Raw that for the first time in 35 years, that's right, guys, longer than I have been alive, we will see a steel cage match at WrestleMania. That's right. Braun Strowman has chosen the stipulation for his match against Shane McMahon, and that match will take place inside a steel cage. Rhea Ripley and Asuka made their match official. They had a contract signing. They had a contract signing. They obviously Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler laid out a challenge to the pair of them for next week. Surprisingly, though, still no Charlotte Flair. This close to WrestleMania, I would have thought that Charlotte would have been involved in this story somehow, but obviously not to be, unfortunately. We also got confirmation that Rob Van Dam, that's right, guys, Rob Van Dam will join WWE's Hall of Fame class of 2021. Obviously, first indicated really by Paul Heyman putting up a post. I believe it was on his Twitter or his Instagram, one of the two, but he announced that he was going to be inducting somebody in the Hall of Fame and posted a picture of himself essentially doing this. Now, we know that was indicating that he is inducting Rob Van Dam into the Hall of Fame. And we also then, at the end of the show for Raw, we had Bobby Lashley's bounty. Who was going to cash in on it? Obviously, we had Mustafa Ali and Ricochet trying to do so, but they both failed. And then we get a surprise appearance on SmackDown. We get a surprise appearance on Raw, sorry. My mistake. It's early, guys. Forgive me, please. We get an appearance on Raw from King Corbin. That's right. I'll be forgiven for saying SmackDown. Corbin's a SmackDown guy. But Baron Corbin showing up on Raw to try and cash in on Bobby Lashley's bounty, to try and take out Drew McIntyre and insert himself instead into the WWE Championship match at WrestleMania. He attacked Drew McIntyre, and that led to Bobby Lashley locking the Hurt Lock in on Drew McIntyre no fewer than 3 times as Raw went off the air. What does this mean for next week for Raw? Well, you're going to have to wait to find out on next week's edition of Lay the SmackDown. But for now, we move over to NXT. That's right, guys. I'm going to take a swig of my drink out of my lovely Rebellious Noise mug. And I'm going to talk big changes for NXT. That's right. As of the first Tuesday after WrestleMania, that's right, Tuesday the 13th of April, NXT will no longer be airing on Wednesday nights directly opposite AEW Dynamite. No. NXT will take place on a Tuesday. That's right. So you will now see, as if you're a wrestling fan, you will now see Raw on a Monday, NXT on a Tuesday, AEW Dynamite on a Wednesday, SmackDown on a Friday. So you're going to have a hell of a week in wrestling. So on this episode of NXT, we had 2 matches confirmed for Takeover Stand and Deliver, and one was slightly cleared up a little bit. So we'll go into the one that was announced first of all in the night, and that was a Women's Tag Team Championship match at NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver. Not NXT Stand Over Take and Deliver, like I said last week. That's right. I'll get it right this week, guys. It was actually announced that the Women's Tag Team Championships would be defended by Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart against The Way. That's right. The team of Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae on NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver. I'm sorry, guys. Need to clear my throat. These mugs are just really nice to drink out of. That's why I just want to constantly clear my throat. So then we had a vignette air of a female figure and a dog. So we'd seen the dog before throughout the night, just running across an NXT branded floor. But this time the dog ran up to the legs of a woman who, if you've seen the dog on Instagram, you will know is the dog of John Morrison and Taya Valkyrie. But she's not going to be Taya. Sorry, She's not going to be Taya Valkyrie on NXT. She is going to be known seemingly as Frankie Monet, or Monet, M-O-N-E-T, Monet, however you want to pronounce it. But that is a trademark that WWE actually filed for a couple of weeks back. So it seems like that is going to be the name that Taya Valkyrie will be going by in NXT. She will. It was announced that she will be debuting on the first Tuesday night episode of NXT. So we then got a confirmation that Jordan Devlin versus Santos Escobar for the Cruiserweight Championship will be a ladder match. Thanks, as the NXT commentary team said, thanks to the suggestion of the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels on last week's show. Obviously, if you didn't see it, Devlin and Escobar both standing in the ring. If you've not been following WWE, Jordan Devlin was the Cruiserweight champion before the whole pandemic hit. He couldn't then get back out to the States to defend it. So WWE then did a tournament with a bunch of cruiserweights to determine an interim cruiserweight champion. That was won by Santos Escobar, and he has been the cruiserweight champion ever since. Jordan Devlin obviously has never lost the cruiserweight championship, never been stripped the cruiserweight championship officially on TV. So obviously he's coming back as the cruiserweight champion, inserting himself into this feud with Santos Escobar, and they're going to have, well, I'm guessing a banger of a ladder match at NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver. And then it seemed like we were going to get the in-ring debut of Mei Ying. So if you don't know who Mei Ying is, she is the mysterious figure who sits essentially on the ramp on some kind of throne, heading up the stable of Tian Sha. There was speculation, obviously, that this character would be called Tian Sha, but it turns out Tian Sha is the name of the stable, along with Xia Li and Boa. She stayed in her seat throughout the match. The match was obviously meant to be Candice LeRae and Casey Catanzaro versus Mei Ying and Xia Li. But Mei Ying essentially just stayed in her seat for the whole time until Caden Carter got up in her face. She stood up. She blew some smoke into Caden Carter's face, rendering her unconscious. Is it like a Chinese sleep gas? I think they're billing it as something along those lines. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not too long before we see the in-ring debut of Mei Ying. But yes, it's quite a fascinating faction, this one, actually. I do like what they're doing with it, the whole the history of how they all came about into the wrestling business and stuff like that. So that's pretty good, actually. So then we have, obviously, Roderick Strong, who was meant to be in the Battle Royal, ended up walking out of the arena following his match with Cameron Grimes earlier in the evening. So it meant that the 12-man Battle Royal, this is where it gets confusing, guys. It's a 12-man Battle Royal to determine the order of the participants in a 6-man gauntlet eliminator match. There we go. At NXT Stand and Deliver next week. So obviously with Roderick Strong pulling himself out, that made it an 11-man Battle Royal. So obviously the first 5 men got eliminated from the match, leaving the final 6. The final 6 people, then in the order they got eliminated, is the order that they are going to enter next week on the Wednesday night edition of Stand and Deliver. So night 1 of Stand and Deliver, we are going to see in this very order a gauntlet eliminator match with Leon Ruff entering at number 1, along with Isaiah Swerve Scott coming in at number 2, then the Colossus Bronson Reed, then Cameron Grimes straight to the moon. Then the mysterious figure of Dexter Lumis, who, let me just give a shout out to. I loved him in this match. He pretty much just stood in the corner for the entire match. Came in and helped eliminate the larger guy in Bronson Reed, and then essentially got thrown out himself at the end by the eventual winner, LA Knight. So we now know that the 6 men to do battle on night 1 of Takeover Stand and Deliver are going to be Leon Ruff, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Dexter Lumis, and LA Knight. And the winner of that gauntlet match will then face Johnny Gargano the very next night for the North American Championship. Now, immediately following this match, Io Shirai her music randomly hit. I'm like, wait, is she going to actually like insert herself into this match? I knew the match had finished, but I was like, wait, hang on. They announced it as a 12-man. We know how WWE like to do these things and actually swerve everybody. And so Io Shirai just came down to the ring. She said something in Japanese. I'm sorry, my Japanese is not fluent. I don't know what the heck she said. But she said something in Japanese, and essentially the only words I could make out from it is Raquel Gonzalez. So Raquel Gonzalez came out to the ring. The two ended up having a brawl, got separated by the entire women's locker room. Io Shirai just essentially was doing flips all over the place. You know, they don't call her the genius of the sky, Io Shirai, for nothing. This woman was just flipping all over the place. And the show went off the air with Io Shirai, the NXT Women's Champion, standing tall. And don't forget, she is going to defend that championship in the main event of Stand and Deliver Night 1 against Raquel Gonzalez. So we now move on to Friday night. This is the part, this is the part where I get to lay the SmackDan on WWE SmackDown. So this was the final show before the go-home week towards WrestleMania. The final live show ever in Tropicana Field's version of the WWE Thunderdome. So, as I've already mentioned, obviously, Logan Paul will be at WrestleMania. It was confirmed in a backstage segment on WWE.com. It was announced earlier in the night during a segment with Sami Zayn. It was the red carpet premiere of his documentary that he asked Logan Paul if he would like to join at WrestleMania. And Logan Paul said backstage that, you know, he's not going to turn down the invitation. Turned into, obviously, Kevin Owens stunning Sami Zayn out of his boots. And obviously that match already set up for WrestleMania. But it looks like WWE have got now their big celebrity for night 1, who is Bad Bunny, and their big celebrity for night 2 being Logan Paul. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Logan Paul actually does get physical at WrestleMania. Is he going to actually get involved? Will he be in the match in any kind of way, like an enforcer type role or anything like that? But at the moment, it seems like he is being advertised as being in Sami Zayn's corner for this match. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. These things are making my throat really bad. So it was also announced that next week there will be a WrestleMania Smackdown. Their words, not mine. WrestleMania Smackdown next week with 2 confirmed matches. That's right. The traditional Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal that we usually see on WrestleMania when they just chuck everyone who's not got a match necessarily into a Battle Royal. This time there will be 22 men that have so far been confirmed in this match. I am not going to sit here and go through every single one of them, but it would be the usual suspects that you guys would probably expect to be there. But little spoiler prediction, my pick to win this is Shinsuke Nakamura. So, yeah. It was also confirmed for that same WrestleMania SmackDown that there will be a fatal 4-way match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. It will feature the champions, the Dirty Dogs, who are Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, taking on the Alpha Academy of Chad Gable and Otis. The Mysterios, obviously Ray and Dominic, and the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. So we're still undecided yet, obviously, as to whether we're going to be predicting these matches as part of our WrestleMania predictions, which are coming up later tonight. You can see that live over here on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel at 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, where I will be joined, obviously, by Scott, Rob, and Lucas It is so tight at the top of that table. Who is going to come out of WrestleMania as the champion? Well, we've only got really just over a week to find that out, guys. So we also found out on this episode of SmackDown that Apollo Crews is challenging Big E to a match that we've never heard of before, and that is a Nigerian drum fight. Now, from the way that Apollo was describing this match, he essentially just described it as like a no-holds-barred / street fight. Essentially, it seems like another one of those WWE tropes where they'll just put a gimmicked name on a match where there are essentially no rules, where weapons are not... you're not going to get disqualified, obviously, for hitting someone with a steel chair. You're not going to get disqualified for low blowing somebody. So it'll be exactly the same thing where you win the match, obviously, by pinfall submission. But we've not officially heard from Big E yet as to whether he accepts this challenge. We'll probably hear that either on WWE.com, either later today, or we'll hear it on SmackDown next week. But for now, obviously, this is still technically a singles match. It's not been officially confirmed by WWE.com or by Big E that he's happy with this match being a Nigerian drum fight. But either way, I think this match is going to absolutely... I honestly think this could still... It could be one of the matches of the night. Definitely could steal the show at WrestleMania. But, you know, it's the Intercontinental Championship. You know, I always do like to see the multi-man matches for it. But a Nigerian drum fight, it's going to be something slightly different. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen with that. We'll see at WrestleMania. We had the confirmed match of the evening of Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso in a street fight. Obviously, Paul Heyman was asking Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville backstage for a hold harmless agreement for Jey Uso so that he's not responsible for anything that happens to Daniel Bryan in this match. The only thing I did notice about this segment really was it was quite telling, really, how obviously Adam Pearce was the one who announced a triple threat match for last week. And probably 90% of Heyman's promo here was directed at Sonya. So he obviously is losing a bit of faith in Adam Pearce, seemingly. So could we be heading to Paul Heyman versus Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce? Who knows? Probably not. But, you know, it's going to be one of those, I suppose, that will be quite fun if it does happen. So yeah, we had Cesaro and Seth Rollins face-to-face in the ring as well about their WrestleMania match. Seth Rollins wearing an amazing suit as well. It was like a mixture of pink, blue, and white. It looked like a cloud suit. Yeah, it looked really cool. They had Corey Graves in the middle of the two of them, just having a little chat back and forth. Surprisingly as well, they came up with an interesting take on this match as well. Cesaro's first ever singles match, at WrestleMania. Now, for a guy that's been with the company as long as he has, and a guy with the talent of Cesaro, that is just, it's a travesty, really, that is his first singles match at WrestleMania. And talking of Cesaro, obviously, if you've not already, go back to the old Rebellious Noise channel. So when it was just the Rebellious Noise channel, to see the interview that me and Scott did with Cesaro back in May of 2019, where we sat down, obviously, when WWE were over here on a tour of the United Kingdom, back when they could tour without any travel restrictions. Yeah, really nice guy, actually. Had a lot of time for us, you know, sat down, spoke quite openly about his career goals. And yeah, so if you haven't already, as I say, go back and check that out. We also heard from Baron Corbin confirming that he will be on Raw again next week to try and take out Drew McIntyre. So essentially, he is wanting to take Drew out so that then he can take Drew's place in the main event of WrestleMania against Bobby Lashley. I don't see that happening somehow. I really don't. I can see you getting your head claymored clean off your shoulders. So the main event of SmackDown, and essentially the go-home segment of this week was the main event of Uso versus Daniel Bryan in a street fight. So this was it was such a hard-hitting match, really. Steel chairs, steel steps, steel chain, ending with Bryan essentially just battering Jay with this steel chain in his ribs, locking in the yes lock. I nearly called it the hurt lock, but thankfully I didn't. Locking in the yes lock. Jey Uso tapped out, and there we go. That was it. Daniel Bryan made him tap. But that wasn't the end of it, because Daniel Bryan then unleashed a vicious attack on both Roman Reigns and Edge. Edge, obviously, commentary for this match. Bryan ran straight up to the commentary desk, running knee straight into the jaw of Edge. Attacked both him and Roman Reigns. Daniel Bryan ending up standing tall at the end of SmackDown. So that, for now, is everything. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Lay the SmackDan. Don't forget to check out our WrestleMania prediction show. That will be live tonight at 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I will be joined as ever by Scott, Rob, and Lucas to talk all things WrestleMania 37. For now, I have been Dan. You've been watching the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Don't forget to follow, like, share, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan_RebNoise. I've been Dan. You guys have been great. And thank you for allowing me to lay the SmackDown on this week. Thank you guys. See you later.